Today it's time for the Grand Finals of HomeStory Cup 28, a $10,000 offline tournament played in Krefeld, Germany, where in the Grand Finals we have a best of 5 with a potential best of 3 reset match as well. Where in the bottom right-hand corner, playing in blue, we have none other than Clem, somebody who has never actually won HomeStory Cup before, which is kind of crazy to me. I didn't even really realize this because I've been casting HomeStory Cup for, well, many years at this point. Clem has been going to pretty much every single one of them, but he's never won. His opponent, likewise, also has never won HomeStory Cup before. He made it to the Grand Finals of the previous edition. Sadly for him, he ended up losing against Zaun at the time. But playing right here in red, we're looking at ShoWTimE's main Nexus. So regardless of who wins this Grand Finals, we are gonna get a brand new winner of HomeStory Cup, and that is always exciting. Clem, of course, from France, very popular player. ShoWTimE, however, he's from Germany, and obviously, well, believe it or not, at a tournament in Germany, you will have a lot of German fans. So I would imagine that most of the crowd, maybe not entirely fair, but I think a lot of people in the crowd would likely be cheering for ShoWTimE a little bit more than Clem. But honestly, if you're a fan of StarCraft, it's impossible not to be a fan of Clem, because, well, he seems to be one of the most likable people out there in the esports world. Either way, it's a best of 5 into a potential best of 3. Why? It's a double elimination format. So in the upper bracket finals, ShoWTimE and Clem actually met. At the time, it was Clem who ended up taking him down, knocking ShoWTimE down to the lower bracket, where he ended up beating none other than Hero Marine, if I'm not mistaken. I did cast that series of Hero Marine going up against Serral too. That was an absolute banger. I do recommend you go check that out either way. It was ShoWTimE then who, in his turn, ended up eliminating Hero Marine. So that means we have a rematch in the Grand Finals. Now, a double elimination format, it effectively means that you have like 2 lives in the playoff stage of the tournament. So ShoWTimE has effectively already lost 1 of his 2 lives. Clem, however, has not lost a series just yet. And therefore, if ShoWTimE ends up winning the best of 5, we have 1 additional best of 3 reset match. And if Clem ends up winning the best of 5, well, he's going to be the winner of HomeStory Cup 28. Stargate opener right here for ShoWTimE. Little bit uncommon, I would say. Clem is scouting around. He hasn't yet seen it. He would really like to get some vision there of that structure inside of the main base of the Protoss player. The norm, of course, nice grenade. The norm, of course, is to go for that Twilight Council opener. Getting the blink going really early on is nice. But right from the get-go here, Demauer, ShoWTimE is gonna, okay, go for a good old Phoenix opener. Not so bad. Not a bad idea, but it is something that requires pretty much perfect execution. A lot of things like, for example, Widowmine drops, which seems to be what Clem is going for here, you can shut down absolutely cleanly, but your micro has to be perfect. It's very straightforward to mess up Phoenix control in general. I do consider it a little bit harder than the Stalker openers, but ShoWTimE is somebody that will pretty much only ever go for tried and true strategies, and therefore I think it's a pretty fair assessment that he should be really good at executing this style as well. Now, the first Phoenix is already out on the map. A Medevac is indeed coming up. Another Widowmine is being made. Phoenix is one of the few early game units here that can actually survive. Okay, a Widowmine hit. So not the end of the world. An Oracle would have gotten 1 shot. A Stalker would have gotten 1 shot. Phoenixes, though, even though they look kind of flimsy, they have a little bit more HP than those 2 units both. So it's going to be blink on the back of this, but we are going to see continued Phoenix production. And usually with Phoenixes, you do just sort of keep pumping them out. There is a moment where you want to stop, but Phoenixes really do find strength in numbers. Up until a certain amount, but 1 Phoenix doesn't really do much. 2 Phoenixes is also not really that much of a party. I mean, it's good, I guess, to shut some of the early game aggression down. And yet again, we do see that a Reaper getting an additional kill, even though it is going to get sniped. Clem has successfully slowed down that economy quite a lot. Regardless, though, even though there is this Phoenix build, he still decides to go, okay, for this very cheeky Widowmine drop. A little bit risky, of course, here if you are Clem, because if you lose the entire medevac full of units, you are in a bit of trouble. Clean defense, though, here for ShoWTimE in the end, other than all of the lost mining time. I think eventually this medevac is going to get sniped. And while this Widowmine is trying to escape, right now, map control is going to go 100% in favor of ShoWTimE. Who, by the way, I mean, I just said it isn't much of a party. He only made a single Phoenix. So this is effectively the world's most expensive Phoenix, because you pay 150 minerals and 150 gas as well for the Stargate, and then you only make a single one of those bad boys. Obviously, this is also him trying to now use this for high ground vision, so ShoWTimE can actually shut down some of the production. And honestly, getting the reactor here is big, because you do need those medevacs, but nice repairing here. Oh, by the Frenchman. He keeps that reactor alive, and that means that the medevac production can continue 2 at a time. Third Nexus is now most of the way done. We do, however, have Stimpack combat shields and +1 infantry attacks. Just about finished. Man, he really wants to get the kill, but the defense here from Clem is excellent. Keeps on putting the workers just barely in the nick of time. What about this medevac drop? Is he gonna try and get it? I mean, not just yet. It looks like eventually one of them indeed falls, but so many low HP stalkers. Only one of them has gone down, so that is certainly acceptable. Some nice micro here by ShoWTimE at the end, but imagine if, well, some of that would have gone ever so slightly differently. The outcome of this engagement would be very different, and honestly, it's still a little bit sketchy, because you do lose so much of that base HP on those stalkers. Now the counterattack here from Clem is going to hit very hard. Sure, there's going to be one medevac less, but I still wouldn't really feel confident here if you are ShoWTimE. You do need a good army. He's got a few sentries though, so force fields here are nice. Charge is on the horizon. Yeah, I really like the sentries here, just slowing down the engagement, making sure that a lot of units are derping around as well. Shield battery is available. Now the zealots get warped in. And I think ShoWTimE has just barely bought enough time. Still though, he's not out of the woods just yet. He's gonna actually be forced to engage now. Widowmine micro here is solid. By Clem backs up, and he continues pushing because of it. Those zealots have now already been taken out of the equation yet again. ShoWTimE does have 8 gateways in total, but likewise he has a bit of money in the bank too. Now he finally spends it. With this additional group of zealots showing up, I mean, unless the Widowmines get the perfect hits yet again. Oh, I think that this is, though, something that is defendable. Still, we have more and more reinforcing units also running across the map. The Cyber Core goes down. That's kind of rough. That means, you know, he actually still has a Cyber Core. Hold up. No, that must have been, what just ended up going down there? Oh, it was just a shield battery. Just a shield battery. That's acceptable. I think losing the Cyber Core here would be a bit of a disaster, but he decided to go for the main basis, the Reaper ramp right over here, wall off instead. Shield battery probably the best thing to lose, but as long as he keeps on warping in units, it's expensive though. He's bleeding out a lot. He kind of needs to get that overwhelming win, but those medevacs are allowing the Terrans so much staying power. Is this, though, the moment that ShoWTimE has been waiting for? Immortal pops out as well. You cannot really afford losing that, but it's got enough HP to prevent itself from going down. Can we blink? Yeah, we do blink. And ultimately, it is going to be a defense right here for the German Protoss. Now, is he going to use this as an opportunity to breathe for just a little bit? He doesn't have a prism out just yet, so reinforcing this army is pretty much impossible. Likewise, juggling the Immortal here is not going to happen. But he does have 3 base economy, alright? And you may as well test the waters a little bit. Fourth Nexus now, though, on the back of this here for ShoWTimE. We have that third Nexus fully saturated. Okay. Liberator follow-up here for Clem. What's really nice for Clem is that, yes, he did lose 2 medevacs, but those were all going down with the Widowmine drop, and then when he first tried getting rid of those stalkers right over here. During that engagement, just now on the other side of the map, all the medevacs stayed alive. And they just allow you so much potential to just stay in the fight. And maybe more importantly at this stage, you can make the transition towards Vikings, Liberators, and all the rest of it. If you have to produce medevacs, that always takes top priority. But getting a few of those libs out, being able to set up shop over here against potential Zealot run-bys, and maybe defending the main base, maybe getting a few Vikings to shut down the Prism, and then soon also the Colossus transition. It's really, really good to have. For now, though, the Prism is gonna get free reign of the main base. Zealots likewise also swooping in around the site. No Widowmine available over here, and while the Liberator is trying its very best. Okay, ShoWTimE does not commit fully into the base, but he does get 8 SCV kills, which is nothing too bad. In the meantime, that 4th Nexus is now done. +3 attack fires up. Like I said, the Colossus production has kicked in. We have a secondary Robo facility. 2nd Forge coming up. I mean, ShoWTimE is on a roll, but these big attacks from Terran are still super sketchy. Liberator, likewise, also really nice at sniping all of this. You do need vision, by the way, on the Liberator to be able to shoot the actual mineral line. There's a balance update that was made to the game not too long ago. He's gonna sack a couple of Stalkers. Yeah. He's gonna sack the Stalkers just to continue the mining. Fair enough. Colossus has been spotted. So that means that the Viking production is really going to kick in right now. Likewise, we also have a Ghost Academy. With that 3-base economy now available here for Clem, he feels like he can indeed start affording some of those very expensive units. Even though this is not Archons, we don't have any High Templar here. It is still super powerful against clumped up units like, for example, Zealots. So getting an EMP down on those Zealots is absolutely massive. You can really never really go wrong, right? With a bunch of Ghosts against a Protoss opponent. But it's just expensive to make the transition. 5th Nexus now coming up as well on the upper right. And so far, it is very clear to me that these two are very evenly matched. It is important to note, by the way, that this is at the end of a very exhausting tournament. So obviously, every StarCraft 2 tournament, when you're a competitor, it's always exhausting, but HomeStory Cup doubly so. A lot of the guys will stay after the tournament is over as well, or like after the tournament day is over, to, you know, maybe hang out for a little bit, drink a couple of... And then eventually they will make their way back to the hotel. Some of them are obviously very stoic about never really doing so. Like, for example, Cyril. Cyril is going to go back to the hotel at a reasonable hour. He's not going to be drinking anything. He's going to be there nice and early when he's needed the next day again, too. But I know that Clem and ShoWTimE may stick around for at least a little bit. Although, yeah, probably not too long. They're also very responsible when it comes to that sort of thing. But you have been playing basically non-stop for like 3 days at this point. And it's not uncommon for the Grand Finals to begin pretty late into the evening too. So if I was these two players, I would be absolutely exhausted. So playing a big macro game like this to start things off, I mean, it's nice for us right now, but I'm a little bit worried for the remainder of the games because there's a certain potential for disaster. Like, for example, this movement. This is horrible right here for ShoWTimE, who loses the Colossus. He's going to lose another one as well up north. The Stalkers trying their best, but this was not where that Protoss army needed to be located. And just like that, man, Clem strikes while the iron is hot. He absolutely wipes the floor with that Protoss force. Alrighty, next up, we find ourselves on the map Winter Madness. Nice game right there from Clem. He's just always so sharp. Like, you never really see Clem having an off day. Well, that's not entirely true. We did have a couple of instances over the last year where Clem did a little bit of rage quitting. But I always kind of feel like whenever Clem has an off day, he still performs as one of the very best Terrans in the world. Many of us, at the very least, when we have an off day, we play like a full league lower than we are. But I feel like Clem, whenever he has an off day, it's still a very respectable level. ShoWTimE, likewise, he's very, very stable. Obviously, ShoWTimE doesn't play in as many of the weekly cups as, for example, Clem does. Although he does participate from time to time, and he plays in quite a few events. But not as many as Clem, because Clem quite literally plays in all of the things. So, you know, it's always a little bit more difficult to judge that sort of position. But ShoWTimE is always rock solid. What's maybe a little bit annoying for ShoWTimE is that he really is known as the quintessential Protoss macro player. So even though he can cheese, like he can do any of the dirty rushes that Protoss is very capable of, he's like the polar opposite of somebody like Hero, you know? Like, both Hero and ShoWTimE participate at a very high level, but there's no denying that Hero has been far more successful over the years, and it just doesn't really seem to be ShoWTimE's playstyle. Like, ShoWTimE just doesn't really strike me as somebody who will just throw in a Dark Templar rush or weird proxies on the other side of the map or all of the other builds that we see from Hero all the freaking time. Now, of course, StarCraft 2 does tend to go through phases, especially in the meta, right? Where at a certain moment, the super macro-oriented style, aka the approach of ShoWTimE, is more successful. But in the current meta, it does seem that the approach of, well, someone like Hero might just be a little bit better for overall tournament play. Either way, I do think for Clem, this is not a by any means an easy opponent, but it's a predictable opponent. And I always kind of feel like when Clem can just play his solid macro game, when he can just play what he has been practicing, he's very hard to beat. He's been taking down the European players for many years now, including guys like Cyril. Clem, probably the only player that, well, if he doesn't have a positive win-loss ratio over the last couple of years yet, he must be very close. Widow Mine drop, though, not gonna happen this time around. Instead, we decide to just plant the Widow Mine. Stalkers, though, outrange it, and with the very quick Observer, easy defense here for ShoWTimE for now. He did go for the very quick charge, actually. Here's the Widow Mine drop, or sorry, the Medevac drop, following this all up. But so far, Clem has been deflected perfectly. He's gonna try and see if he can go around the site, and it looks like it will actually work out. Observer spots it. One probe. Yeah, one probe is very acceptable. Okay. Templar Archives, by the way, really quickly, together with charge. So this is all on 2 bases. This is not ShoWTimE getting the 3rd base up first. Clem scouts around here, sees another one of those observers out on the map. He's actually very sharp when it comes to detecting those. It's not easy, right? From the Terran's point of view, you just have a tiny little blur. Not really something that you can comfortably hunt down, but when you play the game enough, I guess you know exactly where to expect them at what point in the game. Now, we are going to see the Psystorm research really early on. This is effectively ShoWTimE saying, yo, I'm not going to lose to anything dumb. Like, this is the... I mean, it's not like you're entirely free to just play the game, but there's no denying that Storm is a really handy upgrade for defending most Marine-based timing attacks. It's certainly going to be done by the time that Stimpack, Combat Shields, +1 infantry weapons is all finished. So, yeah, I think Clem probably sniffed out that this is a potential follow-up. He doesn't really know precisely what the opponent is going for. I don't believe that he really needs to be going across the map either, though, with the timing right here of the 3rd command center. But you can always test the waters a little bit. This time around, the Observer will not be able to escape. And Clem is going to go for a big push. Prism, though, in the meantime, going in around the site. 2 High Templar are ready to predict some stormy weather in the mineral line. Here's the weather forecast. Let's see. Oh, quick reaction, though. Woo! Normally, we see Terrans losing so many SCVs to that. 3 workers? I mean, that's very acceptable. Okay, it's 6 now. Yeah, it's so easy for things to go horribly wrong. And actually, Clem also sent most of his army back just to try and, well, potentially intercept it. Prism, though, did not end up going down. The Prism made its way back. And that's gonna allow these sentries, or these High Templar, rather, or the sentries, to get some energy recharge going again. Get a little bit more storm energy going, and, well, I think he's gonna need it. 6 workers is decent, but certainly not what ShoWTimE was hoping for. He would have liked to get a little bit more than that. Anti-armor missile could be big. Oh, here's the storms already aggressively used, though. That'll be the end of those Widow Mines. In the meantime, we did have that little hit squad of Marines hiding off to the left. Clem just YOLOing them in, man. Trying to maximize the amount of damage. Kind of a crazy move here by the young Frenchman. I mean, that was not bad. Unless you're one of those Marines, I guess. I don't know if they realize that they signed up for a one-way trip. Go up the ramp, Jimmy. Gun down all of the probes, or at least as many as you can get. But sir, there's no medevac. Shut up, Jimmy. So 12 of the Jimmies have died. 11 probes. We also did see a couple of the Stalkers and, yeah, I guess 1 Zealot going down in the main. Not ideal, I guess, but certainly not too terrible for Clem. That did feel a little bit crazy, right? Just having a group of units like that just to snipe the workers. You never really know when Protoss is ready to go for a counterattack. Blink is now going to be done. +1 ground also coming up here for ShoWTimE. Looks like a 4th Nexus is imminent. I would imagine at least we're going to be seeing one here momentarily. But ShoWTimE can go and test the waters a little bit. Now look at the pre-spread here for Clem. This is a man who's been stormed one too many times already. Widow Mine spread is perfect. Bio spread here is really good. Where are the storms going to go? There's the first one. Not really getting a whole lot of damage done. That one over there, though, is quite a bit better. And you know what? There's just so many High Templar available with energy. Liberators coming in around the side as well. One of them already got sniped. We do have a couple of Archons now joining in the fray. Clem still did run through the storm for just a moment. More and more Zealots are being warped in. Archon does take a beating. Okay. I would have loved to see a few SCVs getting sniped here by Zealots. Yeah, ShoWTimE agrees with me. Now splits up a few of the Zealots to try and achieve exactly that. Losses here on the side of Clem have been minimal. Do we have another energy? Oh, do we have another storm available? Well, he doesn't need it. The sentry there providing enough of a force field to still shut down 17 workers. And now ShoWTimE is setting up shop inside of the natural of Clem. Clem wants to shut this down ASAP though, because he knows that if he allows this Protoss army to regen their shields, it's gonna be an absolute disaster. Ooh, Archon stays alive. Nice juggling, man. He's juggling with 0 shields on those Archons. That is so flimsy. ShoWTimE does keep him alive, though. And he's gonna escape with the Prism, as well as a bunch of those Stalkers. Losing both of those Archons, actually, I think I would have called it an advantage for Clem. Right now, even though these guys are gonna regen their shields, right? Right now, I do think it's a little bit better for ShoWTimE across the board. Who starts up a 4th Nexus now, too. Now, this is pretty much to antagonize the Terran, right? Like, you just took a lot of damage here as Terran. Now, you see as well that there's a 4th Nexus fired up just like that. Do you just allow the Protoss to sit on it? That's what she said. No. Do you allow Protoss to just get 4 bases up and running? I don't think you really can. But likewise, he also doesn't really have an army to go across the map. I mean, he's got to test the waters. He has 8 Widow Mines. That's a lot. But Storm is real good against Widow Mines, as we do have a Liberator now, shutting down some of the mining over at the 3rd. 0 reason for ShoWTimE to come charging in. Action is very much so here on the side of Clem. He's a little afraid, though, of the amount of units available. Liberator is going to be able to fly back. Okay, Protoss trying to see if he can potentially cut this off. Both players, though, remaking a lot of the workers that they've lost. Storm over here could be juicy. Yep. That's exactly what he ends up doing. Ooh. The War Prism micro here from ShoWTimE is really strong. 4th Command Center starts up as well for Clem. We've got ourselves a Robo Bay on the back of this too right here for ShoWTimE. So he's going to be dedicating his army into another source of splash. Trailing behind with one of the High Templar. Picks it up, though, with the Prism yet again. Widowmine setting up in the tall grass, hoping that this Protoss army would charge through. Clem inviting his opponent to come out and play, but so far not really getting the job done. One thing, though, that's really nice here for Clem are his upgrades. So he is going to finish up +2/+2 at a very respectable time, considering the amount of aggression and the amount of, well, defense he's been forced to do. ShoWTimE does have the +3 attack coming up, but 2/2 here, of course, is really powerful. There is certainly going to be a bit of a timing window in that regard. ShoWTimE, though, has so many Zealots now. 32 of those bad boys, actually. It's pretty much a Zealot-only army. I mean, if you have men that have swords for arms, maybe it's not such a bad idea. Here we go. Oh, High Templar cutting off the retreat path. And that's more and more of those units going down. An absolute disaster right here for Clem, who loses the mineral line. He does still have a gigantic army, though, and he wants to see if he can potentially get a couple of Zealot freebies. He is doing a good job cornering the units. We saw that, of course, as well in the previous game, where ShoWTimE was okay for most of the match, and then he, well, positioned his army in the wrong location. Clem cut off the retreatment, and, well, immediately Protoss had to GG out. Quite a few units there do end up getting sniped on the way back. But I think this was a very acceptable set of losses, considering we now have seen 45 SCVs die in this game. Extended Thermal Lens coming up. Colossus production has kicked in. Nexus on the right side still not made. Jimmy is a little bit surprised by this too. We have Mark in the far bottom left trying to figure out what's happening there. He's probably going to figure out about that bottom base in just a moment, but as we now see Clem securing a 4th, we see ShoWTimE securing a 5th. Always one step ahead in that regard, but that is how this matchup works. Protoss is supposed to be a base up. And this is a very beefy Terran army, right? Like, the units just have a lot of sustain. There's a planetary fortress now over at the 4th base. I don't think that ShoWTimE can really push into that. Likewise now with the Liberator transition and more ghosts coming up. This is not a Terran army that's gonna get any weaker. Whereas for ShoWTimE, this is kind of it. The plan is to remax continuously with more of the same units. He's got 74 workers worth, so that's decent, but it's not like he's really got a ton of income. A few of those Widow Mines will end up going down. Oh, he does not want to fight into that choke point, though. It's so flimsy, but he does want to storm it down, and those storms are good. Is that now enough? Is that now enough here for ShoWTimE to pull the trigger and go through? He's getting Gravitic Drive in the meantime. +1 armor as well, now that +3 attack is done. The High Templar hits have been juicy. But we've really not had that many of them out on the map at any given time. Like, we are still only at 3. ShoWTimE purposefully not getting a whole lot of gas income. Now splits off a few of his zealots to 4 of the zealots actually to go into the Naturals mineral line. And now the zoning here is real strong. Clem wants to clean it up, but since he's nearly maxed, he doesn't have a ton of units inside of the main base, nor does he have a lot of production anymore. So even just 4 zealots can actually be super obnoxious. Nice movement here by ShoWTimE. ShoWTimE is ready to charge in. If the Terran decides to engage him, he will send in a few of the zealots instead. He needs to be careful he doesn't get flanked. That's where the High Templar come in. They're using their storms right now for zoning. Not something you could ever do in the previous version of StarCraft 2. Ever since they changed the Size Storm ability, it's just so much better for general zoning purposes. Okay, here we go. This is apparently the moment that Clem decides to pull the trigger. He stims in and he has just so many freaking troops. ShoWTimE had run out of storm energy, using it to keep that Terran army at bay, and he just absolutely got, well, destroyed here. Still, the problem is, by the time that Clem gets across, there will be several lines of warpins available yet again. The High Templar that are now reinforcing this are gonna start gathering energy, and by the time that the Terran gets here, they're gonna have enough for at least 1 storm each. Likewise, we have the Colossus here out. We've got a decent number of units, but I think ShoWTimE was hoping that that fight would go a little bit better than it ultimately ended up going. If you don't have any splash damage anymore as a Protoss, you do just get destroyed. No shield batteries right over here. +3 attack as well, by the way, here is big. Prism ends up going down, but he does unload the High Templar. New Nexus made as well on the far right. Clem not really rebuilding a lot of his SCVs, meaning that he is effectively all in. I mean, he can certainly play the macro game if he gets a good engagement down, but he does want to deal a lot of damage. This Nexus over here is not going to live for very long if Clem actually decides to target it down. He's a little bit hesitant, though. He knows that this Protoss army can come charging in, and ShoWTimE now fully maxed out yet again. Clem's army supply is so big right here, right? So he is not rebuilding SCVs, meaning that he can end up with like 150 army supply versus 120 for ShoWTimE. 30 additional Marines can make all the difference. That's also the reason why ShoWTimE doesn't have like 90 workers, for example. He just doesn't really have the resources for that. He's now going to spend some of his minerals as well on some static defense. Another Nexus coming up even further out onto the map. This is one, though, that will be easy to kill for Clem. But I think ShoWTimE is happy with this cancel, because it means that, well, the Terran is not really advancing too far. ShoWTimE will be more comfortable the more time goes by. I don't think he can jump a planetary, though. Oh, yo, he's going to try and test if he can jump the planetary fortress. The Terran army, though, has got a beautiful flank potential. The storms on that ramp, though, are big. But yet again, ShoWTimE backs up. He is forced into this corner once more. And I'm starting to get deja vu from the previous game. We saw this then as well. This time around, though, it's much later on into the game. ShoWTimE does still have the superior economy, but that is effectively now the second time in just a few minutes that all of the Protoss units end up getting destroyed. Medevac drop goes around the back as well here, as Clem is going to start working away at some of those probes. The Medevacs are out of energy. He does not have the Caduceus reactor research, so it's going to take a while for this army to heal back up. Most of the Medevacs are also 1 storm away from going down. So ShoWTimE is still 100% in this, even though it's been looking a little bit messy. That's one medevac falling. That means that these units will likely also fall. The Marines, that is, they are not going to go back home. And ShoWTimE wants to continue charging here. He knows that without the medevac energy, it's going to be difficult for, well, the Protoss to really be stopped. It's messy, it's bloody. But I think it's just narrowly good enough right here for ShoWTimE. Still, though, Clem has a big force. And you never want to count a Terran out that has 100 army supply. Clem now starts reproducing workers. There's no way. Wait, Clem is actually going to try and just build up the macro yet again. He obviously didn't lose the planetary. If he would have lost the planetary, I think he would have been forced to go all in. Nice little hit squad over here, though. He knows that the main army of Protoss is distracted. So that means that this little hit squad, we're going to just target the Nexus. Recall in this direction. The recall does not complete. So that means another Nexus down the drain. And yeah, you know what? I don't hate this here for Clem. It's a rough position. I certainly don't like his spot very much, but considering everything that's happened throughout this game, considering he's had like 50% less mining than the opponent for like 10 minutes, it is certainly not all doom and gloom. ShoWTimE wants to keep paying attention, right? He needs to know whether or not Terran... Oh, free Colossus. That is not what ShoWTimE wants either, but he needs to know whether or not the Terran here decides to take a new expansion. Medevac goes down full of units. So a Colossus there, a Medevac here. And more Medevacs actually are now being targeted. Prism is going to chase some of those units down. Nice micro there by ShoWTimE. Command Center number 5. Actually, no. He ended up moving the one right over there, so he doesn't really have that much more mining, but he is making a new CC. It's going to take a while, though, for Clem to really get the job done. And him sitting here back, right, like sitting down and just defending is not really going to advance the game very much for him. In the meantime, ShoWTimE is triple expanding, taking a whole load of bases, effectively just grabbing whatever mineral line is available to him right now. He's going to be ready to reinforce this over and over and over again, too. Zealots, though, don't really pack much of a punch at this stage in the match. Where's this command center going to be set up? Okay, he's thinking about taking a base in the bottom left. It's so far away. Decides better of it. Wants to go for the one right below the natural, but also a really difficult spot. A couple of zealots trying to see if maybe they can run into the third base. Maybe see a few of those medevac drops. Fair enough. ShoWTimE once more threatening to go into that base. Not quite committing to it, though, with anything else other than a few of those zealots. Now, this is big. Clem not paying attention. Oh, he's going to lose another command center. Ah, that's super painful right here for the Frenchman. That was effectively his lifeline. It's a bit annoying here for Clem, right? Because this army of his will beat that army of ShoWTimE. But ShoWTimE is kind of behaving like a Zerg now. It's not just this army that Clem needs to kill. It's also like 20 additional Stalkers that he's gonna warp in, or Zealots and Archons and all the rest of it, when this force ultimately falls. Clem does not have the money to reinforce this anymore. ShoWTimE can keep it going for like another 10-20 minutes or so. Now this is a nice move. The Vikings find themselves out on the map. He spotted 2 of the Colossus. So that's another 2 of them going down. Protoss army is in a weird position, though. Where's the Prism? Okay, the Prism is getting in this direction yet again. That's a decent couple of storms going down. ShoWTimE just sending them wherever he can. He's going to aim down for the Vikings now, too. What about the main fight over here? No more storms available in this direction, but the positioning here is not ideal for Clem. And at this point, I think ShoWTimE can reinforce this for a long time to come, and that means he will even up the score. GG. Next up, we find ourselves on the map White Rabbit. That game was a beauty. A great tug of war, very intelligent play as well. So many little ways in which that could have gone horribly wrong, especially for ShoWTimE. Clem really trying to invite those mistakes. Now, ShoWTimE certainly did make a couple with his army getting caught out in the middle of nowhere multiple times, but he was still in a good enough position to ultimately squeeze out the win. What do we do next? Where do we take the game from here? Well, it's a double gas opener here for Clem this time around. So rather than focusing on a really quick command center, he's decided to go for a very quick factory right now inside of the main base. And usually this indicates that Terran wants to do at least some sort of aggression. Alternative choice, I guess, is to play this super safe. So he is going to go for the command center right now, but you obviously do just get way more early game production. It'll be nice to keep that Protoss army pinned back, I suppose. I would like to actually see Clem. Like, I talked about how sometimes ShoWTimE is a little bit predictable. At least if you compare it to, say, for example, Hero, right? Like, Hero is a very unpredictable Protoss. But likewise, I think if you compare Clem's playstyle to somebody like Maru, Maru mixes it up so much more. Like, this is Maru's bread and butter. How many times have we seen Maru do SCV pools over the last few months? How many times have we seen him just absolutely dominate Protoss players in the earlier stages of the game? We don't really see Clem going for such plays very often. It's always the Koreans, though, that go for the most aggressive strats. But I wouldn't really mind seeing Clem maybe incorporate some of that as well. Like, if he spots a vulnerability, maybe just send in the boys. And this is a type of opener where you could go ahead and pull something like that off. There is a command center, though. On the back it is eventually. ShoWTimE, of course, already opting to go for that very quick Nexus after the Cybercore. Usually end up going for the Nexus after the Cybercore in this matchup. Just to still be reasonably safe, especially against early game Reapers and all the rest of it. Speaking of which, the Reapers right now, the Jetpack Raiders, they're going in. 2 probes is really quite good. Stalker would be big. Hellion right now, actually. Okay, the Hellions just join in. And this is disastrous here for ShoWTimE. Losing a Stalker as well is a really big deal. At least there's a full wall off over here, right? Making it difficult for the Reapers to join in. But if those Reapers would have also gotten a few shots off, would have been even better. This is a fantastic trade, though. And more than makes up for the timing of that command center on the low ground for Clem. I mean, now we have the perfect setup for an SCV pool, right? What? Okay. Sure. Thank you for sharing that, Zerk. I appreciate it, man. That's, I guess there was a little bit of a lag spike or something. It's always nice to, you know, let everybody know you're doing well. Now, what is the age-old adage? When behind? Dark Shrine. ShoWTimE builds up another one of those bad boys. Widowmine drop right now, though, inside of the main base. Clem snatches up one of the Widowmines. Reapers go back in for more. Man, the walling here is really important for ShoWTimE. Imagine if they were not in that location. Nice grenade here as well, though. Preventing another one of the Reapers from going down. Yeah, I didn't actually know that Zork had feeling. Like, in general, I kind of thought that Zork functioned as like a hive mind, where they probably all think the same thing. You know, they're given instructions and they follow up. But, hey, it's nice to know that the individual Zorks here are okay. Not entirely sure, actually, whose username this is. In case you're unfamiliar, for most of the big tournaments in StarCraft 2, there are multiple language commentators. So, very common to have, like, for example, Polish commentators, Russian... Like, we have all these different languages in StarCraft 2, all these communities that also exist that we don't really hear too much about. At least if you're only following, like, you know, the English-speaking community, which maybe, considering you're watching this, maybe you are, but there's a lot of StarCraft fans in other countries as well. Dark Templar getting shut down. We have one more scan that we need here in just a sec. Oh, actually, there's a Raven. That also worked. Wow. ShoWTimE gets shut down in every way this game so far, and he knows where this game is headed. He decides to just rip off the Band-Aid in pure frustration, and I don't entirely disagree, but yeah, we probably could have stuck in the game for a little bit longer and maybe cross your fingers and hope that Clem makes a mistake. Either way, he doesn't believe that there is a way out of this puzzle, so he just decides to leave the game and go to the next. Okay, And just like that, we find ourselves on Old Republic. Match point here for Clem. So again, if Clem wins the best of 5, since he comes from the upper bracket, he wins the entire tournament. If, however, ShoWTimE wins the best of 5, since he comes from the lower bracket, we have one additional best of 3 reset match for all the marbles. If Clem ends up winning this map, he will be the winner of HomeStory Cup 28. And honestly, it kind of... I mean, it always sucks, right? Especially if you've made it to the Grand Finals multiple times. In the case of ShoWTimE here, and you just have never, in this instance, potential instance, like you've never won it. That always kind of sucks. But I do feel like Clem, he's just been such a force in the StarCraft community for such a long time. It's actually kind of insane to think that he has never won this event before. Obviously, the big culprit in that regard is none other than a little-known man from Finland, who's been consistently, making that difficult for Clem. Lucky, I guess, for him, Hero Marine took care of that problem. What's pretty crazy about the Hero Marine series is that prior to that match, Hero Marine had never won a map in an offline setting against Serral before. So they had played against each other dozens of times, but he had never even won a map. Isn't that nuts? And then he ends up winning against Serral, eliminating him out of the tournament. Proxy Pylon going up for ShoWTimE. We'll have to see exactly what the plan is going to be. Probably just to warp in some units. By the way, I usually, just to clarify, I've had a few people wondering as well around that time when this tournament was played a few weeks back. But the reason I wasn't at HomeStory Cup was because of my ear operation. So I had already had my ear operation for like 2 weeks or so at this point. And I was kind of hesitant to go to HomeStory Cup. It's like a 2-hour drive away. But at the time... Loran, my wife, was also like just about ready to give birth. And funnily enough, as we have the Widowmine drop going in right now, hold that thought for just a little bit. A little bit of damage being done. Proxy Gateway indeed coming up. I think the Widowmines are gonna get shut down here. And with the Medevac falling, this is going to be quite expensive here for Clem. Yeah, in the end, I'm actually very glad that even though I kind of could have gone to the tournament maybe with my ear, the doctor hadn't really given me the clear yet, so I don't know, maybe it would have been a bad idea. But anyways, like literally 2 hours after this Grand Finals was played, my wife went into labor. So that would have been a very stressful drive home. That would have not been, no, that would not have been ideal. So I'm kind of glad that I skipped out on this one for once. I'll be back again for the next one. I'll be back again for the 29th edition. Always sucks, though, to miss out on events, especially when they are just over the border. Anyways, we did see 9 probes dying there, but unlike the previous times that we've seen Clem deal a lot of damage in the earlier stages of the game, he did lose a lot of units of his own, too. So now the Stalker counterattack is really sketchy. There's a hallucinated Phoenix here to provide high ground vision, and that means we can pop into the main. That is a dead tech lab already. Secondary tech lab going down as well, and this just knocked Clem back to the Stone Age. Absolute disaster right here for the Frenchman. Even the bunker is gonna die at this rate. Yeah. And this is, like, luckily right here for Clem, there is not really... I mean, he's got 4 gates, but he's not really reinforcing this so aggressively that he really wants to go all in with it. He did build up a 3rd Nexus and all the rest of it, right? He has the proxy gate, so reinforcing is not really the issue, but there's not enough high ground vision to continuously dart around here. Now it's a little bit more of a one-dimensional push. I don't believe ShoWTimE is intending on ending the game with this attack, but it certainly had potential. Imagine if we would have had a Prism out already, or like reliable, well, high ground vision as he moves in once again. Goes for another one of the tech labs. A Medevac ends up falling too. Yeah, ShoWTimE is a merciful god. Although he's still gonna test the waters. Recall the troops right now. And what's really nice here for Protoss is that normally after this sort of Stalker aggression, you are anticipating the Terran's timing attack, but we don't have Stimpack. We don't have combat shields. We don't really have anything here for Terran to push with, and while you can still test the waters here as Clem, it is very unlikely he's actually going to commit. Yep, so ShoWTimE keeps the map control for now. He now has a third base up and running. Clem has a third base building, but it's not yet finished. He is oversaturating his expansion already just to be able to transfer probes, or SCVs rather, straight to the mineral line when he ultimately secures it, but this is not a very comfortable position here for Clem at all, who's now forced to play super defensively and to just sort of sit here and defend against literally everything. A little bit of a Widow Mine drop though. Clem trying to deny mining to the best of his abilities is really the only thing he can do right now. Man, it's a lot of lost mining time though. Widow Mine drop as well inside of the main base. Okay, that one will get sliced up. Same can be said right now for the one over at the third. So, I mean, considering the amount of income, yeah. A lot of lost mining time there. Clem did actually grab the income advantage despite being a little bit lower in the worker count there, and despite not really having efficiently mining mineral lines at all. Oh, we commit to the push. Stalkers actually are going to be really strong. Liberators being targeted down. Siege tanks, of course, unsieged. Man, if there were like 2 more Stalkers here in the mix, there would have been a lot more one-shotting. So many SCVs dying. It's a disaster here for Clem. Yeah, that's another Liberator down the drain. 12 SCVs. Bunch of siege tanks. Not bad here whatsoever for ShoWTimE. ShoWTimE did eat a lot of losses of his own too. Yet again though, I don't believe that there's really enough for Terran to counterattack with. So even when ultimately the dust settles, I think the 4th Nexus here is the intelligent play. He's building one over at the top of the map. I don't know if Clem is going to be loading up Medifex, but if he doesn't... okay, he's going to load up one. Fair enough. If he doesn't actually harass that expansion at all, ShoWTimE's economy can go through the roof really quickly. Clem, though, getting a snipe on that Nexus would be big. He doesn't know about it just yet, but he has seen a pylon. He's going to unload over here, stim in, try to snipe, I think. In the meantime, though, the Zealots trying their best. Siege tank in a really pivotal location up on the high ground. He actually wants to go for the mineral line instead. He wants to go for the guaranteed damage. Let's see. That's 1 probe. Stalkers in the meantime, though, together with the Zealots commit. That's a whole lot of probe potential over here, though. That's so many workers going down. Likewise, though, we had 5 SCVs dying. Likely also due to the, well, splash damage of the siege tank. Probes, though, trying to hide at that newly acquired base, but there's only so much safety for them. Crazy move right here for Clem. But he kills 17 probes with just a single medevac full of units. Proxy gate now at the bottom of the map is also going to get denied. So no more free reinforcements from that spot. And suddenly, right? Did the medevac die? No, it snuck around the side. Suddenly, this is not such a rough position for Clem anymore at all. Yeah, the trades have been efficient. The economy has been built up. Maybe not as fast as Clem was originally hoping for, but he's grabbed himself a really nice advantage, and he's going to celebrate immediately with a 4th command center of his own. Sadly for him, the armory is a little bit late, so that does mean that 2-2 has been delayed a little bit as well, but I think all of this is forgivable, because, well, he's now ahead in the supply count with quite a significant margin. By the time that he gets across the map next time, Storm will be done, though, for ShoWTimE, which is a massive power spike, of course, here for Protoss. +1 armor coming up as well inside of the Forge. And this time around, we have quite a few more Templar. In a previous macro game that we saw, he had like 3 or 4 High Templar at most at any given time, it seemed. But now we already have up to 8. And I think we're once more going to predict the weather forecast to be stormy. ShoWTimE, he makes for an excellent weatherman. Protoss players are always right in that regard. Well, let's see. Quick reaction speed required here for Clem yet again. Not as fast this time. Yeah, no. No. I love storm drops. Kind of crazy how we never really used to see them, right? In StarCraft 2, it's really quite nice. ShoWTimE forcing Clem to take a shower. Every gamer's worst nightmare. Ooh, Clem. Ooh, slips around the side. Careful, though. Man, there was so much storm potential here. Now the force fields are still allowing him to get some good hits in once more. Marauders in the front. High Templar picked up. Luckily, right there for Clem, those High Templar weren't ever so slightly closer. This is still a flimsy army, though, for both players. ShoWTimE wants to stay around and snipe down the Medivacs, the Raven, the Liberators, and all the rest of it. Siege tanks, yet again, though, as the backbone to the defense. Yeah. They're making it difficult for those Zealots to really charge through. Second Robo facility right now inside of the natural expansion. A Robo Bay added into the mix, too. As we have, once again, a Medivac drop sneaking through the cracks. Honestly, these random Medivac move-outs... I mean, they're not random. But these, like, seemingly random Medivac move-outs that Clem sends out continuously, they are always dealing at least some form of damage, right? So he's now done 28 workers worth of kills on his opponent's side of the map. And it's all because of those these random Medivacs just flying around, somehow, some way, slipping through the defense. Maybe having a few more of those spotter units out on the perimeter would be really big here for ShoWTimE, just so he doesn't get blindsided. For what it's worth, by the way, those plays, like putting spotter units out on the map, those usually are the first things to go when you're starting to get tired. Some nice storms here yet again. Prism ends up going down. Oh no, this is not good here for ShoWTimE at all. All of the Terran units are still alive. Many of them are low HP, but he gets all of the important troops. There's a few Zealots targeting down a supply depot. Not what needed to be killed there at all. And suddenly, if we look at the army size yet again... ShoWTimE just plummeted down. Unlike the previous games, Clem feels like he's got good enough economy right here to build up the Fusion Core. Fusion Core is going to be for the energy improvement for the Medivacs. It's going to be for the ranged upgrade for the Liberators. This also likely means that he can go for things like building armor inside of the engineering bay, high-sec auto-tracking for additional range on the planetary and the missile turrets, all the rest of it. It's this much more comfortable late-game transition. And it just makes the Terran army so much more formidable. So even though we're going to see mostly the same units right here for Terran for now, it's going to be more of the same. All of these units still have a lot of improvements to get. Whereas, like, for this Protoss army, I mean, there's still some Forge research, I guess. But there's, like, no late-game upgrade for Stalkers or Zealots or Colossi or anything along those lines. This is effectively it. This Protoss army gets better just by the sheer amount of reinforcements that ShoWTimE can get. Not because of the units themselves improving very much. So if ShoWTimE can find an engagement right now, that would be good. Getting any sort of snipe here would be big. Clem knows that he just needs to deflect. No reason for him to take the engagements. No reason for him to take the bait. Planetary Fortress down at the bottom of the map here, I'm sure, in just a moment. Command Center out front, a little bit exposed. Planetary Fortress over here, though, is going to get mass repaired. Don't think there's enough here. Nope, not going to happen. New Planetary. A Nexus Planetary, that is. Coming up as well, though, for ShoWTimE, who will continue mining. And this time around, he's at 87 probes. So even though all of this is very similar to previous games we've seen, the moving pieces are slightly adjusted, and it does create a different late-game dynamic. Clem, yet again, by the way, idles at 69 SCVs. Just pointing it out. I feel like Terran players are always very fond of that number. Tactical nuke coming up, though. Ghost Academy. Another Nexus taken here by ShoWTimE. ShoWTimE wants to go around the side. A couple of Marauders here trying to get lucky. Maybe they got a few important units, but nothing all too crazy. ShoWTimE still trying to move forward. He really wants to slice up this planetary right over here in the middle, and he decides to commit yet again. The Colossi, they're trying their absolute best. This is going to be costly for ShoWTimE, but he is willing to pay the price. Is there enough, though? Is this an overextension? I think he has enough splash damage. Yep. Enough storms available to keep pushing this away. And that, in the end, is an excellent exchange for ShoWTimE. Even though it kind of felt to me like he was starting to throw the advantage that he had built for himself. This is not such a rough position for him anymore. The thing is, right, another win condition right here for ShoWTimE. It's just wait for the Terran to mine out. So the main at this point is out. The natural expansion is drying up. The third base is not going to be far behind. That means that Clem's economy is very little compared to the Protoss, right? Like income-wise, 93 workers versus 58. It is just such a gigantic advantage. ShoWTimE is effectively getting like a dozen zealots more per minute worth of mining. That's a lot. Ooh, this is a pretty good engagement, though, across the board. Yet again, that ramp. He's not okay, chat. He is not doing okay anymore. Anyways, he has some really nice storms here in that choke point, making it difficult to really push up the ramp. ShoWTimE wanted to see if he could clear out the army. Didn't quite happen. Decides to back up once more, but he has so much mining. Another Nexus coming up. Clem has once more activated the classic Terran trap card, where at this point he is no longer replacing any of the lost SCVs. Instead, he's just making non-stop army. So that means that his army supply is gigantic. Whoa. Whoa. Yeah, we have just so many Zealot Warpins. 14 of those bad boys do go in. Marauders are still alive, though. We kind of missed one or two storms. ShoWTimE's army actually just got decimated. Wait a second. He just took a nosedive from like 100 supply down to 40. Clem did take a bit of a beating too, but most of those Terran units are low in HP, but not dead. This is like the 6th time that we've seen this in this series, where it kind of feels like Clem is down and out. But then he gets all of the right engagements going yet again. This man seems to smell storms. Looks like the nuke is not going to land. Nope, just barely not. Stalkers, though, going for the counterattack. Zealots joining in the fray, too, and that is a planetary fortress falling. Yeah, Clem is an absolute beast. Like, knowing when you can stand and fight as a Terran player is actually, like, the hardest thing to do. You can only do it when there's no storm, or Colossus, or force fields, or any other 17 different options that Protoss has. But if you find the opportunity to stand still and just fire with all of your Marines and Marauders continuously, the damage goes through the roof. When it's just Stalkers and Zealots, this is the type of Terran army that just destroys. Liberators right now used as a way to fall back. Advanced Ballistics is available. Clem now has that base up and running yet again, though, at the bottom of the map, which is big. Takes down a Nexus over here. And he has indeed got mining yet again at the very bottom. This is not the old main base. This is just an additional orbital command that he built. Multiple planetary fortresses have died so far. ShoWTimE decides to throw his army all the way to the left side flank of the map. Tries to see if he can go for this middle planetary yet again. Could be a little bit risky, though. It's purely Zealots now with a few Stalkers mixed in. He decides to commit, but the question is, at what cost? The Zealots are derping around against one another. I think the command center is gonna die eventually, but the same can be said for like the 40 Zealots that are over here. Another couple Colossi end up falling. What about this base at the bottom? ShoWTimE just YOLOing in units right now, and this seems like a gigantic throw to me. I mean, he does get a couple of bases. He does kill 25 SCVs, but he needs to have several minutes to just rebuild his army, and I don't think Clem is gonna give him the light of day. Clem needs to go for the counterattack right now. He cannot sit here and wait for the 3,000 resources more per minute that ShoWTimE is trying to gobble up right now. He needs to counterattack ASAP. Medevac drop. Oh, he's gonna split up his army. Medevac drop heads on over to the natural. Probably wants to go for all of the big production here. Probably assumed that there would be more Colossus coming up, but the other half of the Terran army is on the left side flank. I really like that Clem is not actually moving in one big ball. I think that this over here is likely going to have to pick up and run away, but in the meantime, there is a Nexus dying on the left side. Instead of running away, though, he decides to go for the tactical nuke. That is absolutely ridiculous. He wants to get all of his army. There is no observer nearby. Hold up right now. The Marauders are being sliced up. The Zealots need to be careful. They do not walk into that nuke. A lot of losses, though, on the side of the Terran, too. And keep in mind, he does not really have that many SCVs mining. It's pretty much impossible for him to rebuild his army at the same rate here as ShoWTimE is getting it done. But, I mean, this is another Nexus now that bites the dust. In the meantime, those orbital commands are dropped again, of course, with mules. So there's a decent amount of mining happening for Clem still. Clem is going to take down another base. That will be expansion number 4 in about 2 minutes' time. That ShoWTimE is not going to be able to mine from again anymore. And he doesn't just kill the base. He also wants to go after the probes. Liberators, though, in the wrong position, facing the wrong direction. That's another 45 probes falling. I think Clem should run and just him and run. Just get out of here. He actually groups up right now with the other alternative group of reinforcements. And you know what? As the dust has settled, yet again, Clem has navigated this crisis pretty much perfectly. And you know what? 86 workers have gone down on both sides of the map. Isn't that nuts? How do we end up with an identical worker count? That ended up falling. Clem now smelling blood in the water. Man, Clem made all the right calls there. I'm actually... Splitting up the units was perfect. Going for all of those bases, but also the path that he took to kill all of those expansions and to maximize the probe kills there is not that easily done, right? It's very tempting to just aim for the throat when you know that you are effectively all in. Right now, though, the tables have turned. Oh, Clem doesn't need his full army anymore to fight the maxed out army here that ShoWTimE is still able to produce. I mean, maxed out 111 supply, but he's decided to commit some of his units to the counterattack and use the majority of his army to shut down this final force of ShoWTimE. Storms are landing left, right, and center, and while the Vikings are being hit, the Zealots also take a bit of damage. That is Archons falling. Man, ShoWTimE has got to be royally tilted after this game, because this truly was his game to win. And sadly for him, that means that he loses 2 grand finals of 2 HomeStory Cups back-to-back. But it also means that Clem obtains his very first victory. Nice series. Beautiful games.